Ladies and gentlemen, dear viewers, welcome back to Deep Tech Atelier 2023 on the Deep Tech stage. My name is Artis Ozoliņš, and we're commencing with our activities on this stage until the very end. Before the break, we heard some use cases and some proposals how we could work with hydrogen, but now we will learn more what we can do on a pan-Baltic level and what role Latvia and our deep tech scientists and hydrogen experts could do on a European scale. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the panel discussion, Hydrogen Now, what Baltics can do. And this discussion will be moderated by our dear moderator, Kaspars Liepins, founder at the H2 Latvia. A round of applause. Let's welcome him. Next up in our panel, we have Šarūnas Varnagiris, head of Lithuanian Hydrogen Energy Association. Hello. Hello. Next up, we have Sven Parkel, general manager at Estonian Hydrogen Cluster. Hello, welcome. Pēteris Lesničenoks, member of the board of the Hydrogen Association of Latvia. And Ivars Pinkulis, co-founder at ETGAS. Welcome. Kaspars, take it away.
Thank you very much. Distinguished guests, panelists, and visitors of the Deep Tech Atelier. Hello. Now we are going to talk about the hydrogen in Baltics. And it requires a vision. As any new thing, you know, we need to understand where we are going. And I had a definition for the vision. It's the ability to think about or plan the future with imagination or wisdom. So I'm inviting use your imagination or wisdom. Tell me, how do you see the state of affairs for the hydrogen in 2050, the year when we're supposed to reach already the decarbonization of economy? What is going to be like in Baltics? Maybe let's start with Pēteris.
Thanks. Thank you, Kaspar. I think that 2050 is a good date to have a vision. We have a lot of documents saying that we have to be green by then, but we need to be a bit quicker. On that date, I think we will have solved storage problem. Yeah, you basically need to be able to use energy later than the moment when you produce it. And by 2050, I think we can store it in not only purely energy way or hydrogen way, but we have also a possibility to maybe convert it. So I mean that we will create new technologies how to convert it into another product through chemical industry or through other other processes. Yeah.
So storage is the key thing we will be tackling and getting there, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Šarūnas, what's your take? You know, what the hydrogen economy of 2050 will look? Lithuania, Baltics?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that all those three countries, Lithuania, Latvia, Estonia, has the similar position in the whole Europe, let's say. We all have a border with Russia. We all have relatively small industry compared to West and Middle Europe countries. So I believe that we will go in the same direction, the same direction, for all three countries. And for all of us, the main goal is the same in the energetic sector. I mean, to have clean, independent, and cheap energy. At the moment, the price of hydrogen is quite high compared in any other sectors, let's say. But still, when we are investing a lot in hydrogen, we are testing, we are doing things, we are cleaning energy sector, I believe that the prices go down and down. And 2050 is the very good year to compare where we can be. I believe that the majority of produced energy will be from renewables. Of course, we will have to have something additional because, you know, renewables is like sometimes it's sunny day, sometimes it's not, sometimes it's windy, sometimes not. So we need to clear this and solve this. But I believe that in 2050, the biggest of energy will be produced of renewables. We will see.
Right, thank you. Ivars, what's your take on vision, imagination or wisdom?
We have a bit different take because we are producing hydrogen since 2010 already. We are producing it from biomass and waste. So when we talk about the storage, we already have a huge hydrogen storage today in Latvia in form of wood, forest residues. That's actually really big potential of hydrogen source. And in 2050, I think the key target for us, what we have to achieve, that nothing is being combusted at all. No forest, no waste, and it has to be recycled or produced. Hydrogen has to be produced from local resources. Those are a lot of tons that hydrogen can be produced from these resources. So by 2050, I think we will be very clever on how to perfectly use it and not to export, let's say, low value both biomass or waste, and definitely forget about incineration and stop all the waste incineration projects as soon as possible. It's a source of new molecules, which we will need in the future.
Mm-hmm. All right. So biogenic hydrogen from the waste or the biomass.
Exactly.
Great. Good vision. Sven, what's your take on?
So, yeah, 2050, it's so far away. So, of course, difficult to predict future. But I think only thing we're, in a way, not sure of is that what is the percentage of the hydrogen economy in our energy mix. And why I'm saying this is that it seems that in Estonia or perhaps also in the Baltics in a wider sense, it seems that we still sort of don't understand that this decision has been already made in Europe. So the hydrogen economy will come, and the sooner we realize this, the less painful this will be for us. So what I mean is that the basis for this is, of course, Green Deal, and very unfortunately, the war in Ukraine gave this a very strong meaning. And it means that Europe actually does not want to depend on these kind of monarchies or these kind of systems, political systems, which can be easily sort of controlled by the mind of one person. And how are we gonna get there? So the main driver, of course, is wind energy. And if you look at the plans that are for the windmills in Nordic Sea, but also in the Baltic Sea, for example, if you look at the Baltic Sea spatial, the maritime spatial planning, then Estonia has a right to install about 7 or 8 gigawatts of wind farms. Latvia 14.5, for example. And we've heard that in Finland, the pipeline of wind farms that are waiting to be built is more than 200 gigawatts. So it means that this region here will start to produce loads and loads of energy that we cannot use. So if we are talking about 7 or 8 gigawatts of wind farms, and that's just offshore, I'm not talking about onshore wind farms or onshore solar. And this will produce about 3 or 4 times more electricity than Estonia can consume, and we saw also the numbers just an hour ago, how much Latvia consumes electricity. And you have the right to install even twice as many wind farms in Estonia, so you will produce even more energy. So the hydrogen backbone will come. It will start in Finland, and will go through Estonia, Latvia, Lithuania, Poland, and Germany. And there are sort of 2 ways why it's important to us. So one of that is that we are part of stabilizing European energy security. So the European hydrogen backbone vision document states that if we look at 2030 and 2040, then there will be one region in center of Europe which will consume more energy than they can produce, and mainly they mean Germany, but also perhaps Poland to some extent. And there are 5 regions which will produce more. Of course, things with Ukraine are a bit more unclear at this stage, but those 5 regions will start producing energy towards Germany. And this is one thing. And the second thing is that, let's say that it's a bit hard to say out loud, but if there was ever, let's say that from the Baltics and from the Finland, we're able to provide 20%, 25% of energy in Europe, then if there's ever a question whether we should get tanks or javelins, then it would be a very strong statement why we should get them.
Thank you. Great insight as well. Just to summarize, so we see ourselves in 2050 as independent, self-sufficient in terms of both renewable energy, wind, solar, biomass, optimal utilization, so nothing is wasted, everything is turned in the high value added products. And naturally, you know, how to tackle the storage, how we can get all this nice bio or renewable energy for the use, because that's the biggest obstacle, I guess, and hydrogen might be the answer. Sounds like that? Right. So the question is, and you already highlighted in your discussions, how to get there, how we can get to this vision, which you just highlighted, you know, what are the steps needed, practical steps, how we can get there by 2050. Yeah, well, what also the innovations can do. We are now in a deep tech atelier, right? What innovations, what role can play in this journey towards a green, independent, abundant energy? Pēteris, I start with you again.
Yeah, thanks. So innovations in the field of hydrogen energy has been happening for a long time. Like every country does something, and we do discover new materials and new processes, and that's all fine. And also the companies that innovate are doing it at a good level. But I think at some point we need the innovations to go to industry sector. We need industries that are established to basically introduce innovation in their processes. They need to move to something more advanced. And as much as everyone loves startups and new technologies, like we need to involve strong market players that actually need to switch. They need to decrease their costs, and they need a new product. And it might be energy sector, but it most likely will be some product sector. And I think we might not need to create the final product here in Baltics, but we might be a very important part of the whole hydrogen chain. And any sector, even machining sector, can pick that thing. Like Sweden is a great example in a hydrogen chain. There are multiple companies creating flow plates, very significantly important bit of fuel cell or electrolyzer. And it's not that difficult at the first point. It's just a plate of metal, but then you go to innovations on coatings or cleaning and such things, and I think that's where the innovation will happen, in the small bits and pieces that build up the whole machine. And we need to look for partners outside.
Thank you. And Šarūnas, you're also a researcher. You're working for the Institute of Energy, right? What's your take on innovation and how are we going to get to that future?
Well, I think that we are like in the beginning steps in talking about the hydrogen energy sector. There are a lot of things to do for our region. There are a lot of things going on at the moment. For example, we have common projects with Pēteris in the hydrogen sector. We have common activities with Sven. I believe that a lot of things going on in small steps, in a beginning level, let's say, and we will go further and further. Well, if you compare our countries with let's say, Germany, Netherlands, Belgium, others, sometimes I think that is quite good that we are not in the same innovative level, because we can see what they are doing and took from them what is the best, and don't take what is the worst or what's not going on, not happening, or something like that. Other things, what we have to do, what is must, I think, it is public opinion. Yes, we are talking about deep tech, we are talking about the hydrogen, but public opinion is very, very important. For example, maybe 1 year ago, let's say, in Lithuania, I with my colleagues made some short, let's say, research questionnaire with public opinion. So just said very simple question: I said word hydrogen. What's the most relative word from your side, from public, related to hydrogen? And they said, of course, hydrogen bomb. Nowadays, everything is changing, and then nowadays, opinion is quite different, a little bit, step by step. But we need to improve this. We need to change this because our history is like that. That we are related with hydrogen, like hydrogen bombs, let's say, and West countries are quite different. And yes, but now we are doing step by step, all three countries. For example, very good example actually is hydrogen wallis. Pēteris mentioned this in his presentation. Sven maybe will say more sentences about hydrogen wallis. The hydrogen wallis are very good in terms of that we can involve various different innovative, various different industries, various different stakeholders. All the communities in there starting to understand what is hydrogen, how it can be used, that it is safe, that it is not so explosive as they thought before. So hydrogen wallis is very, very good thing, I believe, and especially in our region, where we need to expand not only technologies, but public opinion, and involve all the industry possible on the industry which could use hydrogen for their own purposes. So step by step, we are going further and further, and I believe in the future we will reach those goals.
Šarūnas, thank you. Very good points. I also acting on behalf of the Latvian Hydrogen Alliance quite often see the three things. What you talk with the general public, right? That hydrogen is, first of all, it's 2050, 2040, not now. Hydrogen is expensive, and hydrogen is dangerous. Well, and when you got the old good Europe, as you mentioned, it's happening already in Europe. So it would be good to get that vision, that experience here, show them the people, the general audience, that it's happening. We know how to handle these molecules. We have learned it by this time. The same thing was maybe, price-wise and danger-wise was about the wind energy, solar energy back in 1980s, 70s, when the whole thing started. And look what's happened now. If you look at the polls, people are overwhelmingly voting for the renewable energy. We have, like in Latvia, I think 78–80% support for the green energy. So the same, hopefully, will be for the hydrogen. Ivars, turning to you now.
The hydrogen is it's hard to store, hard to transport. So it's a very difficult molecule and dangerous. So when we talk about hydrogen production here in Baltics, so of course main emphasis is on energy, that hydrogen will be used as a source of energy, but it's a bit different concept as I see personally, and we see that hydrogen is a molecule that is a feedstock for a lot of products. So it's one of the core molecules, and if we deliver those targets, we have envisaged that we will produce 1 million tons of hydrogen here in Baltics at some point of time. Then we will, of course, have to develop downstream process of that molecule. So we don't have to focus on hydrogen production and storing and exporting to somewhere. We have to add value to that so that we can combine it with carbon. We can produce liquid fuels, liquid chemicals. We can develop new industries here in Baltics which are focusing on that abundant hydrogen, which I believe will have in Baltics. So that will, of course, develop a new ecosystem of businesses, of industries, and that's how we, of course, can transform this wind and solar and biomass and waste to really high value added economies in all Baltics. So this is one what we have to take into mind, that the hydrogen is not the goal. This is just the intermediary molecule, intermediary product that actually will be used in a lot of different ways, and energy is just one of those pathways. And please don't think on converting electrons to molecule and then back to electrons. It will be, it cannot be core target of hydrogen production. Just not, it won't be efficient. So you'll have to figure out how to implement this the right way.
Thank you. Also very good insight. The hydrogen is just a mean to an end. It is not an end, it's a mean to an end, right? It's a way how we can store energy, use it in forms of electricity. We can turn it into the e-fuels, methanol, for example, because methanol is one of the 4 elements which all the plastics are built on. So the things we see behind it, there's methanol inside. Now it's fossil, but it can be also the green one, e-methanol or biomethanol basis. So great.
We are doing it.
Sven, what's your take on how we're going to get there?
Right. So innovation, absolutely huge player here. So let's again go back to the very basics and start with why we're talking about hydrogen economy in the first place. And again, it comes from the Green Deal and the point that Europe wants to get rid of fossil fuels. So that's fossil fuels and probably in later stage also those fuels that are not non-emission fuels or zero-emission fuels. And second is that if we're thinking about ways how to transport large-scale quantities of energy across Europe, then electricity is not an option. So because building those cables that would allow European energy independence, it's not feasible. So we have to figure out what is the other way. And currently the hydrogen infrastructure provides much cheaper. So some estimates say 10 to 20 times. I've even heard 100 times when you think about some other aspects as well. What would the hydrogen gas infrastructure for large-scale energy transport cost less than transporting an electron? So in a way, the worries about the efficiency are absolutely correct. Of course, we have to make sure that the energy balance is there and we don't lose more than we actually gain. But that's where the innovation comes in, and there are a couple of ways how innovation can very strongly help this economy towards the right path, and one of them is, of course, the use of rare materials, rare metals, where innovation can help to figure out how we can get rid of those and make more sustainable electrolyzers, fuel cells. Of course, the efficiency is the issue. Well, it's not an issue. I mean, it's becoming less and less of an issue, and that exactly thanks to the innovation. And to the point that some of the fuel cell developers are stating that we shouldn't talk about efficiency anymore because this is getting really to the level where it's not a factor when we're also talking about the losses at the electricity grid, which often are not discussed in these discussions. And eventually, for example, when we're talking about 2050, which was center of your previous question, then currently the industry is going towards upscaling in the sense that more and more or larger and larger systems are needed and are tested and are asked by the clients. But we actually at one point should start thinking about downscaling. So of course there are companies developing those solutions as well, but at this stage, at this economy, it's still the economy of scales. So for example, to think about your home unit that would produce and consume hydrogen depending, for example, how the sun shines, it's not yet cost effective, although these kind of systems are already in the market. So how are we gonna make this innovation work? And here is exactly, Šarūnas mentioned valleys. So valleys have a great role here, and it starts with pilots. It starts with pilot projects from small scale, from larger scale, from medium scale. And these kind of valleys will try to bring those projects together and help them to make them move at the same pace, to use the knowledge that one project, one company may have, and how to also create this sector coupling. So, of course, one of the aims of hydrogen economy is to decarbonize industry, and that's where a big part of decarbonization will happen, but also a little bit in mobility, perhaps. And what will be the mix, of course, difficult to estimate by 2050. But there exactly, the hydrogen valleys will play a strong role. But currently, to the point where industries should start in and making the innovations happen, I'd say to some extent it's there, but it's maybe not as much in the hands of industry these days, but in the hands of startups, because industry is so busy building things. So they're just trying to scale up because there's a huge demand in Europe. And that's why it's going to take probably five years, because those companies are currently building huge factories just to be able to satisfy the need in Europe. Of course, China is going to come in quite strongly. We see that already quite a bit. And then this kind of innovation that comes from startups, this will start reaching those large-scale industry companies, and that's when we're going to start also much more efficient systems. So I think that's probably the pathway how that's going to go.
Thank you, Sven. Great insight as well. And Estonia is doing great. You already have, well, 10 years of solid oxide fuel electrolysis and cells, right? So the gigafactory for the production of electrolyzers as well has been announced by Stargate Hydrogen. So we see the way how to get there. Just to summarize, we see, what Pēteris mentioned, that we need to have also the strong industry. Without that, innovation will go nowhere. We need to have some also the requests and demands, and we need to build that, I think, simultaneously with innovations. And Šarūnas mentioned public opinion. Absolutely agree. Yeah. We need to do something so people understand, they know, they see the potential of this unique potential of the hydrogen which we have now, and there will be no better time than now when we have all the energy transition, when we have the need, also fortified by the war in Ukraine, the need how we can get out of that dependency of the fossil, of the geopolitics, into the green future. And naturally, the way which was mentioned to go along with hydrogen valleys is very good, and to build the new industries, because hydrogen valleys are also the place where you can build these new industries, whether it's some fuel production, e-fuel production, ammonia, whatever derivatives you can get, whatever is needed for the market, for the European market, for the world market, can come there. And also building the, let's say, spare parts or the building blocks of the hydrogen economy. Bipolar plates, you mentioned NACO technologies, great example. The Stargate Hydrogen with their gigawatt size electrolyzer plant is good as well. Right, so then just the last question. I see we are coming close to the end of our discussion. Last year, not last year, in 2021, in November 29th, there was also a nice event, Hydrogen Week in Brussels on 29th of November. And then Ursula von der Leyen, our European Commission President, announced that our target is to bring hydrogen cost well below 1.8 euro per kilo by 2030, well below 1.8 euros per kilo in 2030. And the goal is within the reach. Do you agree with this statement? We are, let's say, 7 years away, 6.5 from 2030. Pēteris, what's your take on that? Yes, no?
In 2021, probably. I would say, yeah, you could think that. I think that currently it's a maybe.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Okay. Taken. Point taken. Šarūnas, what do you think?
Well, I think yes, it is question of maybe, but I think it also depends on how fast the technologies will growing and will be installed in all the different regions. I believe that the price will be a bit different in different regions also. And of course, the discussion about the technology, how fast. Well, we are installing electrolyzers, but still, electrolyzers are R&D level, let's say. They are still developing. We are installing fuel cells, but they also in R&D level, they are still developing. What wasn't, well, our colleague in his first words mentioned a bit about the hydrogen from waste. So pyrolysis also very important technology which should be mentioned. Hydrogen Europe also declared that pyrolysis is quite in the same level as electrolysis and will be in the future. And pyrolysis from waste, hydrogen production by pyrolysis from waste also will be very important part in Europe. So if all the technologies will go further, maybe.
Yeah. So we have two maybes. Ivar, what's your take on 1.8 euros? Well below.
It's hard for me to comment on electrolysis pathway because we are not in that industry. But when we talk about waste as a feedstock, so we will get cost of hydrogen below 2 euros next year. So it's not so far.
So it's already way of the schedule, right? Because, well, you are saving the time and making it already affordable and cheap.
And the target is to get it carbon negative, hydrogen with carbon capture included. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Sven, what's your take? Quick one.
So 1.8 euros was that?
1.8, yeah.
So let's say that 90% or 89% of the price is the price of electricity, and let's say it's 50 kilowatt hours per kilogram. So it means the electricity, the pure electricity, the OPEX cost would have to be in the range of 3 cents per kilowatt hour. Yeah. So it's 30 euros megawatt hour. So, and this is just the operating cost. So if we add capex to that, so you can do the calculation on your own. It means large scale wind farms. So I'm guessing it's going to be possible in some areas by 2030, considering what's happening in Germany already and in many other places, but not the whole Europe.
Okay, all right. Thank you. So it's another maybe, let's say, or it depends, yeah, question. And just to conclude, we just finished on our time. Just to conclude what Ursula also mentioned, the more we invest, the quicker we will get there. So, and we see that the money is pouring into the industry. We see that there is a high availability of the funding, both public and private. So let's go there. That would be my invitation. Let's see the bright future. And just to conclude, let's see that we are in this unique spot where now the energy can be produced by each of us via the solar or wind. It can be turned into something else, whether the battery storage or the hydrogen, also by us. We have never been in a place when the regular regular Joe can do such things. So let's move forward to this green, nice, decentralized energy and economy. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Round of applause to our dear discussion panel. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you very much.